By the way, let me introduce myself first. I hope that everyone had a very wonderful lunch. Nabusog po pa kaya sa lunch ninyo? So, welcome to the afternoon session of the oral session in this particular room. And let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Nico Javier Domingo. I'm also alumnus here. I finished my PhD here, but I'm teaching in the SCA University of Science and Technology. So, my big session partner here is an undergraduate student.
Professor John De La Roma po. I'll be your timekeeper po.
Okay. So every participant will be given 20 minutes for their presentations and also a additional 5 minutes for the Q&A. Okay. So we're looking forward for a very interesting topics to be discussed this afternoon, and I hope that the audience will also, and other participants will also listen so that we can have conversation for your insights, recommendations, or any feedback that you may give to the presenters. Okay, so to start off, may I just know from what university or the affiliation of our first participant? To discuss the writing skills of learners in the spectrum, a scoping review of recent research on the English writing skills of learners with autism.
It's an alumni of here BSc Major in English,
Okay.
then from De La Salle, Masters of Teaching with the English Language,
Alright.
and currently teaching Hotel University that's based in Mexico, but it's an online university catering to undergraduate and postgraduate
Okay,
students.
well, so welcome back here again in UST. So now to let us all welcome Ma'am Artea Arese Sunico, Ma'am Quisada and Ana Carmela, and
Yun, kami dalawa.
okay, to discuss their paper, Writing Skills of Learners in the Spectrum, a scoping review of recent research on the English writing skills of learners with autism. Let's give them a warm round of applause.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Again, I'm Martea Casada, the elder.
And I'm Ana Carmela Sunicokisanda, the younger sister.
And we are presenting our paper, the
Evolution of Writing Skills in Autism Research, 25 years scoping review. Okay, so for the introduction, autism is a spectrum disorder marked by difficulties in communication. With a growing awareness and advocacies for children along the spectrum, the need for learners to express themselves and communicate through writing has been a clamor of inclusive education in the 21st century. In the Philippines, the topic of writing and learners in the spectrum is a blind spot, and this study aims to be a first of its kind to tackle the issue to improve current strategies of writing instructions for learners with such special needs. And
So what is our goal for making this research? Basically, we call ourselves trailblazers, as we would like to establish a baseline of what themes, what items, what concepts, psychological, learning strategies, technologies, intervention could be made for our learners with autism and eventually maybe other learners with special needs as well. So our paper is a scoping review. Basically, it's like a systematic review, but according to Smith and Duncan in 2002, it is basically a broader, more in-depth look into as a topic, a research topic, which could lead to a systematic review or formulation of different hypotheses. So our methodology included the inclusion criteria of the articles that we read and look into. So basically, we needed articles published after year 2000, and then it is in a peer-reviewed journal or a repository of theses and dissertations, and it focused on learners along the spectrum and their writing skills at any age level. So looking at the Prisma table, which is one of the most popular guides used when doing systemic research, we started with 115 by just using Google Scholar. Again, we want to stop gatekeeping and making things publicly available. So we just use Google Scholar because that is what is publicly available. So we deleted for the duplicated articles. Then with the 111 left, three titles did not fit our criterion. Then from those 108, 22 did not have full article access. So we had 86 left, and there were two common reasons why we had to take away others, which is the focus is on teachers, and these are book chapters and not peer-reviewed journals. So we were left with 78 articles. So what are the findings of our paper? First is that research on writing in autism is gaining traction, or is being studied right now. So if you would look at the base methodologies we use for our research, we divided them into 7 main methodologies: case studies, qualitative research, quantitative research, mixed method, experimental and intervention, and then review and systematic, and applied and action research. Looking into more specific methodologies, we could see that almost 52% are quantitative, and these are not just basic quantitative, they are cross-sectional, correlational, comparative, and here are the other types for other methods as well. So we have meta-analysis, single subject design, and reviews. So these are all important because this is what the world has right now. And sadly, if you Google search autism writing Philippines, you won't get anything much but simple mentions in articles. And then using ANCONC, one of the linguistic analysis, we made a list of the abstracts of the 15,737 words from 78 abstracts. So these are the most frequently occurring words. So basically, it is just seen still as a research study and not really something that we could use inside our classrooms. So the research trends, so not just of the other cues, but of all, is basically saying there are huge gaps in terms of participants, populations, methodology. There are limitations in funding, there are limitations in scope and breadth, and everything basically is a future direction in this. It's like opening a can of very beautiful worms for research.
Okay, and for the next finding that we were able to come up, so autism and writing are two interrelated concepts. So for this paper, autism is defined as a developmental disorder. Researchers found it necessary to associate the diagnosis with the brain or the nervous system, which another description that marked is delay, which would mean that some cannot perform at par or within their age group. The delay, impairment, or the issue are usually communication or language. So 19 of the authors agree that autism is a delay or impairment in social interaction skills. Thus, the intersection of writing and autism rests on understanding two concepts. Okay, first is the importance of writing in our daily life, right? And the second is the difficulties that the children in the spectrum or the children with autism face. And writing is necessary since it is essential in academic and in our career skills. It facilitates communication, social interaction, and critical for academic success. And thus, researchers claim that writing gives the learners in the spectrum an access to symbolic world and communication channel. It constructs identity and recognition and the expression of their thoughts, their beliefs, and their feelings. Researchers also report that up to 60% of children with autism may have learning disability in writing. Furthermore, they agree that writing is a tool for self-expression and social cognition. Okay, so next slide, please. So another finding that we were able to find is that learners with autism face writing challenges. Okay? Overall, this framework, so the writing challenges for learners with autism are not just limited to the core linguistic skills, but it extends outward to interactional, cognitive, affectional, emotional, and other layers. So each layers interacts with each other and creates a multifaceted set of barriers that necessitate and tailored support by visualizing these challenges as concentric rings where all educators and researchers can better appreciate the layered nature of writing difficulties. So the center ring, at the center are the core writing skills where learner demonstrate variability in abilities, producing shorter and less complex sentences. So these students often show difficulties in organization, producing text with poor coherence, limited elaboration, fewer narrative elements such as what are the elements, character, setting, and emotional contexts. Grammar errors, reduced syntactic diversity, and frequent spelling and transcription mistakes further compound these difficulties, reducing text clarity and fluency. Next slide, please. Now, surrounding the core, well, go in the diagram, is the interactional ring, which reflects the social and the communicative demands of writing. So learners often display reduced emotional and abstract language, which diminishes narrative richness and expressiveness. Pragmatic language challenges such as difficulty with tone, evaluate expression, and providing background information for further limits the effectiveness of their written word. Next slide, please. So for the third ring, we have the cognitive ring, which emphasizes executive function in idea generation. So students with autism often experience difficulties with abstract thinking, maintaining focus, and generating ideas. And problems with planning, organization, cognitive flexibility reduce their ability to draft and revise effectively. Consequently, they frequently rely on external prompts and scaffolds to sustain engagement and structure their ideas. So in the physical and sensory ring, okay, thank you, handwriting difficulties and dysgraphia negatively impact writing fluency and legibility. Sensory sensitivities, while less explicitly documented, may further influence engagement and comfort in their writing tasks. And finally, the outermost effective in the next slide. Ayan, the effective and support ring encompasses emotional regulation and scaffolding needs. Learners often experience anxiety, frustration, and inflexibility that interferes with their persistence in their writing tasks. Task engagement is frequently lower compared to typically developing peers, requiring structured support of scaffolding to maintain their motivation.
So another finding in our study is that writing autism is grounded on so many theories. Our first theories are NLP and linguistic analysis. Basically, for some authors, children within the spectrum learn language by analyzing the structures first, just like how AI was trained. And then we also have other forms of linguistic analysis like the enunciative language framework, which says that the amount of speech or language that's been expressed by a person is dependent on its relation to the subject and to its to the subject and their relation to the subject and its listeners. The second group of theories are social and narrative theories. So basically, these are those which say that communication will not be possible without social interaction. Our third group of theories are the cognitive and developmental theories. So this is where we see our opponents, Grofenheimer, for ecological theory, we have ZPD. So these things, it talks about how things inside the child and outside the child help in their learning to write. And then we have the educational and neuropsychological frameworks, including brain gym and other educational interventions that's being made and studied since 1980. Then we have other concepts, assistive technology, indigenous materials, and so on, which are yet to be discovered and be given proof. And finally, the most discussed theory is SRAD, or self-regulated strategy development for learners with autism. So basically, SRSD, next slide please, stands out because of these concepts. First is explicit teaching of strategies. Then we have guided modeling. Next is self-regulation and self-monitoring, motivation and effective. Then we have, next slide please, strategy use and generalization, reflective practice, next slide, and then integration with technology and visual output. Then we go to our next point, that writing skills are measured differently. So we group all those measures from all those interventions and quantitative studies and made 10 basic groups. So we have the overall writing quality, which basically describes the writing of these students, sometimes compared to their typically developing or ADHD counterparts. So we also have the language accuracy and mechanics. So what are examples of those? Correct use of correct words, grammar and spelling accuracy, punctuation, spelling, and so on. Our third group are sentence level measures: complexity, word length, syntactic complexity, microstructures. Then we also look into their lexical and syntactic features, including type-to-token ratio, vocabulary variety. Then text and organizational structure, coherence, cohesion, use of transitional devices, things like that. Writing fluency and output, the length, the speed of writing, the time they take to write. So these are also being studied. Then for the seventh, we have content and idea, let's stay there. Content and ideation, basically, so we're near the last. So content and ideation, basically it's about how long they process, are their ideas real, are their ideas connected. And lastly, then we have expressiveness and creativity. Do they sound like writing thesis every day? Some do. We all know that. So having creativity as a child with autism is a huge step and a huge marker that there is really something more going on in their brains. Then we have engagement and self-regulation. It's their frustration tolerance. A lot of children with autism would start with the first sentence and stop there because they think the first sentence is not perfect enough. Then of course, they use visual support when they write. Since we are not just talking about children with autism doing a thesis, we're not just talking about children with autism taking the ALS exam and creating the essay that will get them their diploma. So how are they measured? We're measuring them quantitatively and qualitatively. Quantitative, we have those counts, complexity, and so on. Then qualitative, we use our rubrics. It could be teacher designed, and like for the ALS exam, it is designed, and then it could also have performance-based assessments, genre-specific rubrics, and narrative analysis.
And the last finding is strategies for writing can be classified into 11 groups. So first is explicit and step-by-step instruction, which is central to writing development. Next is visual supports and graphic aids, use of technology and digital tools, multi-component instruction interventions, self-regulations and monitoring, instruction or organization in structure, social and emotional writing, personalization of individualized instruction, motivation and engagement, peer and social inclusion, emotional and expressive writing. So it's the words are kind of self-explanatory itself. So the highlight of our findings is the Magic A framework, which is best for practices. So we have M for map learners profiles. We could use needs analysis, goal setting, curriculum mapping. A for authentic expression using real world tasks. G for grounded instruction, which uses strategies. So teacher strategies should be based from or backed up from experience or from research.
And then we continue with I, individualized scaffolding. Basically, we all know that when we deal with children with special needs, even in inclusive settings, we have to cater and tailor our materials for them. So we will give the scaffolds that they need. It could be a module, it could be manipulatives, whatever would help them. So when you're teaching writing to your other students, your child with different ability will be able to be joining them as well. We also have the communicative purpose because, again, we started with the learner, the mapping his profile, and the main goal is basically to communicate. We are not just aiming for them again to produce a paper or to write an essay to get a grade. We're making sure that we are teaching them how to write because writing is a skill that shows an ability to use overall aspects of language and be able to communicate it freely. So only then can we be sure that we are doing our job. Lastly, adaptive collaboration is not just you. Children with special needs require team management. PT, OT, SP, SPED, teacher, parent, stakeholders who would be queuing their ramps, so things like that. It is always a team effort.
So we end our presentation with saying writing can be their voice. So again, this is Ana Camela S.
And
Quesada.
this is Arthea Rizulio Quesada.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for a very wonderful